2025 budget is not yet passed, and this one is supposed to be in power for 6 months, and he has been spending resources, and as it were, there have not been oversight. So if there is commitment on the part of National Assembly, they can do their oversight.
All right, there's a whole lot more to unpack, but I remember last week when we had this conversation, the controversy was that the president proposed a budget to the National Assembly, but there are demands for the administrator to defend it. Is that not a problem? Well, I decided to travel very far to bring a man who just might have the answer to that question. I say might because nothing is promised. And that man is Vahyala Kwaga. He is the Group Head Research and Policy Advisory with the Budget Foundation. You should know Budget. Their job is the breaking down of the data that comes from budget. So yes, he definitely is qualified. Hello, Vahyala. Good evening.
Hello, Sam. Pleasure as always.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Okay. So let's head straight to business and save time that we do not have enough of. Now, we're having conversations around accountability. We're waiting and hoping that our budget in River State is defended so that what would seem like development can start or proceed. But between all of that, the controversy about one person proposing or presenting the budget and another person defending it, is that a problem? Because the president, of course, presented before National Assembly, and now the administrator is expected to defend. What are conditions for those kinds of eventualities?
So thank you so much for that question, Sam. I mean, the issues are complex, but we need to look at the root of this whole matter. So a state of emergency was declared in River State, and the president, through, I'm not sure what type of powers, suspended the governor, the deputy governor, and the entire State House of Assembly. Now, in some way, there was a ratification by the National Assembly for the state of emergency. It is not clear to me that the ratification by the National Assembly extends to the President's act of suspending the governor. I suspect that matter is still in court, and the Supreme Court, at the very least, must give a ruling on the legality or otherwise of that action by the President, the action of the National Assembly. Now, why I am bringing this back to the original act will be made clear a little later when we are looking at the process of legitimation of statutory functions. So we now have the National Assembly sitting as the agent, the purported agent of the River State House of Assembly. Now, the River State House of Assembly, the National Assembly acting as the agent of the River State House of Assembly, should have been the body to prepare the budget. The idea is that the state executive council, comes up with a proposal, they take it before the House of Assembly reviews the budget and passes it on to the governor for his assent. Of course, neither of those two parties is available in this instance. So the President of the Federal Republic probably prepared the proposal, sent it to the National Assembly acting as the agent, and the National Assembly is meant to approve. But there seems to be some level of confusion in this regard.
Yeah.
If the sole administrator is the one to defend the budget, will the sole administrator also be the one to approve the budget? Because the process of budget formulation and budget assent have very clear entities, institutions, offices that are meant to handle that function. So if you have a situation where the sole administrator, whose existence, by the way, is still being subject to legal debate, is the entity to defend the budget, it would make no sense constitutionally, nor, according to the doctrine of the separation of powers, for him to be the body to approve the budget as well, unless the President of the Federal Republic will be the entity to approve the budget, which, will actually run contrary to everything we know about separation of powers, federalism, and the legality of otherwise of these actions. So in summary, I would say that we are treading into very, very ambiguous, troubling constitutional waters at this point, because it is clear that there is going to be some violation of the principle of the separation of powers, at the very least, if not the Constitution.
Okay, so in other words, Vahyala jam problem. Well,
it's more than jam. This is like an MIT exam.
Okay. Now, accountability is important, regardless of what the form of government is, whether it's a state of emergency, we have an administrator or a governor. The money belongs to the people, and they should be able to ask questions about it. I'm not quite sure how accountability is supposed to play out with the situation we have, because it has been established that a confusion seems to be the foundation of all of this. Now, the first concern is that this budget, the proposed budget, holds a higher figure than the budget that the suspended governor had proposed to the State House of Assembly, which obviously was not passed thanks to their problems. And so, I don't even know how to ask this without... How can that be explained that somehow in this emergency rule, we need more money for a fiscal year than we would have needed for when things were okay, and people cannot justify... Okay, now it's not a question, it sounds like a statement. But do you get where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Okay, so just help me with the...
So, I want to just make a very important statement at this point. Fortunately, I'm a legal practitioner myself.
Okay.
So what we were taught as undergraduates, what we were taught in law school, is that you cannot build something on nothing.
Okay.
You cannot extend a legal action that is based on a nullity. So it's unless, the Supreme Court in its wisdom has some type of reasoning over this matter, it is likely that this will result in a series of litigation, for many months to come. So looking at the issue of accountability, before I go to that of the jump in the amount, it is unclear to me how the National Assembly, sitting as agent to the River State House of Assembly, expects to be held accountable over this process. I think one of the sound bites you played before the commencement of this program was, I suspect, from an honorable member of the House of Assembly, the Federal House of Representatives, or the Senate, saying, Port Harcourt to Rivers is just a flight away. Yes, it's a flight away for you, a legislator of the Federal Republic that earns tens of millions of naira, but does that same privilege exist for the people of River State, for the mother who is selling fish in the market, or the wheelbarrow pusher, or the carpenter, or the teacher? Will they have access to you as they would have had access to the State House of Assembly that they elected directly to oversee the affairs of River State? So that is an open question that I think needs to be addressed in this regarding this matter. So looking at the increase in the size, I don't think it's particularly out of the way. It's not unusual for state governments to increase their budget via a supplementary budget, sometime during the fiscal year. Second, even third quarter, states have amended their budgets or provided supplementary budgets.
Yeah.
So it's not entirely unusual. What we need to look at, as is said, the devil is in the details. What components of the budget were increased? Were they capital expenditure items? If they were, what type of capital expenditure items? Were they purchase of vehicles? Was it for payment for consultancy? Was it payment for goods and services? what component of the budget was increased. It likely would not be a recurrent component. I strongly suspect, though I have not seen the budget, it would be the capital expenditure component, and that needs to be interrogated. Citizens need to demand that the budget details be made public.
Yeah.
And I have a serious interest in that budget because my organization, in fact, my research team, along with myself, we write our state of state report. And our state of state report relies on, this form of documentation.
Yeah.
And if it is not produced for this year, our state of state 2026, will be lacking some details in our analysis of 2025. So, in short, I would say that the increase may not necessarily be eyebrow raising, but we do need to look at the details of the budget before we can make any conclusive statement.
Okay, so I'll have to let you go shortly. What kind of demands do we have to make as regards accountability? Because like I said, there's a lot that we're not sure of. For example, we don't know when this budget will be defended. What is in the news is that the administrator will defend it, but we're not quite sure of when. And with every passing day, it puts you further down a tight corner. So, what are we asking for? For the budget to be public at this time, for the session at the assembly to be public? What kind of accountability must the people demand?
So the people need to be carried along visually and in documentary form at every step of the way. From the presentation of the proposal to the budget defense, everything must be televised. To the defense for specific components.
Okay.
And this is important because it's far too often the process of budget defense at the state level is done in such a swift manner that there is very little allowance for input from citizens, of actual interrogation by the House of Assembly, by the houses of assembly. So what we see is a budget can be brought, first week of December, and it is approved first week of December. And that shows that the State House of Assembly do not interrogate the budget.
Yeah.
And that speaks to the broad question around the data available to the State Houses of Assembly and the argument for the increase in a particular budget line done by the ministries who have, participated in that budget proposal. So we need to see televised instances of the budget defense, and there need to be channels created for citizens to ask questions when that process is about to culminate. And we need to know who is going to approve and attend to this budget. I think that's a really interesting question for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Vahyala. There's a lot that's unknown. Hopefully, as events unfold, we'll have some certainties to add to this. But we appreciate you, as always, for your time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me, son.
It was a pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. Vahyala Kwaga is the Group Head, Research and Policy Advisory Budget Foundation, and they do the business of analyzing budgets. As he said, reports are important. After the break, you get to be a part of this conversation. The administrator to defend the budget. We're not quite sure when, but the accountability part is where you and I come in. Stay with us. Back is still hard facts. 92.3 Nigeria info. 5:33 p.m. A couple of minutes left on the hour for this particular conversation. We're talking about the budget defense. This is as the sole administrator is expected to defend the 1.48 trillion naira emergency budget for River State. While it's unclear when the defense will take place, the new month has begun and time is running. So there are concerns regarding the potential for accountability if the budget is passed, with the state being under emergency rule. Policy analyst Jide Ojo calls the National Assembly to demonstrate full commitment to accountability, saying proximity should not hinder the committee's oversight. Now, I'm asking questions regards the figure, accountability, when this defense should happen, and the questions that Rivers people should be asking. I've said that before on this platform, that has to be broadcast live so that we can watch. It's important that we understand exactly what the administrator is defending. 08179230002, 08179230003. On this River State problem, I think the problem is that even those who declare the state of emergency do not know what it means. In a state of emergency, all laws are suspended. Trying to get the administrator to go and defend the budget is like wearing a dress to make it like a human being. Okay, from Rumo Dumaya says. Okay. And Kelvin Frank says, the antics of... Okay, Kelvin, this is from the previous conversation, not this one. Well, Gift calls from Yenagwa. Hello, Gift. Good evening.
Good evening, Samorako.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Let me talk about, like you're suggesting. To me, anyone is not bad. Whether you do it live or they do it indoors. My only challenge, if it is Samorako that is sounding this way, 100% I will support you. But outside from you, the people that knows themselves very well that we were calling on the governor when he submitted his own to 3-man illegal house, they were okay. Any of them that will support this your idea, I will shut it down. I will never accept. Because why? When you don't even have House of Assembly members duly constituted, you are in support of it. And if Chinedu Oracle is suggesting, you will now jump into that very suggestion and agree with him. No, don't try it. Don't be hypocritical. And
no, hold on, Gift. Hold on. Gift. Hold on, please. The defense of a budget is it's a public document that talks about the people's money. So it should not be a closed door event, right? By design, it shouldn't be. There's nothing about it that should be.
I agree. That is what I'm saying now. But this was what they were clapping hands and supporting. In fact, do you know that the 3-man was inside the government house? Where in this world have you heard of that?
Yeah, well, Give. 2 wrongs don't make a right. If it was done at that time and anybody was okay with it, it doesn't mean, right? If people support that this should be open, it doesn't take anything away.
Samorako, that is why now I'm trying to paint this picture. Somebody like Sam Oracle, I will not complain. I'm telling you my mind. I'm in support of that, your suggestion, because I don't think the man is hiding anything. Jide Ojo suggesting that too. It is not bad, because what is there that you are hiding in the first place? Focus for alarm. Do your work. The man, as far as I'm concerned, the man is following due process. And the man has been delivering. And he will continue to deliver, because even the civil servants are happy with him.
All right.
So go there, defend it. But after from people like you, my brother, I will not accept.
Thank you, Gift. Justice from Omudioga. Hello, Justice. Good evening.
My friend Sam, good evening. Happy New Month.
I wish you the same.
In Delta State, the proposed budget in Delta is 936 billion.
Okay.
Now, in River State, under emergency rule, we are presenting budget of 1.48 trillion. I'm just imagining. The administrator has spent 2 months already, and he has 4 months to go. And we are spending over 1.48 trillion. Does it mean that after the emergency rule, this budget will suffice? Is it what the Governor Kwaga will still use when he comes back in September? The figure is just too much. And when I heard it that the administrator want to spend 1.4 trillion, 1.48 trillion in just 4 months, it looks suspicious. Okay, on a normal, when presenting a budget, you will see ministries, departments, and agencies will go to the assembly to defend the budget of their ministries and parastatals, right? But now, in this case, only the administrator is doing it for all the agencies and parastatals, raising questions. So there are question marks about accountability. I'm just worried. So even though you televise the defense for Nigerians or the world to see, there are still question signs. There are still question marks about the accountability. Who are these ministries? Under Ibas, we don't have sole administrators of ministries. So Ibas is the only person handling all the ministries. Ibas is the one in charge of is in charge of everything. How is he going to work?
Okay.
So obviously, this emergency rule in Rivers State is not for the benefit of Rivers people.
All right, Justice. It was not stated, I don't think that was mentioned anywhere, that the 1.4 trillion is just for the 6 months of the emergency rule. They have not talked about the time frame, but speculatively, we want to assume that that's the budget for the fiscal year, right? That if the emergency rule is called off tomorrow and the governor is reinstated, and if this budget had been passed, that's what he will have to work with, because it will not make any kind of sense that there will be a new budget proposed by the governor. 1.4 trillion is more than what the governor proposed for the fiscal year while he was, before the suspension. So while nothing has been stated clearly, just judging by the figure, it will not make any economic sense that this is just for the state of emergency. Lawson from Yenagua. Hello, Lawson.
Hello, Sam.
Good evening.
But it's obvious now, Sam. It's the budget for the fiscal year now. It's just like an old government staying and living and a new one coming in. They won't make any other budget until another fiscal year. So it's budget for you don't need anybody to tell you that. I don't need to wait to be told that. And you see why I call it that I feel that people should be on. The reason why sometimes these issues are the way they are, the country is the way, because people are not objective. Yeah, we were starting here. You cannot use 3 people to make budget, just as this from Yenagua said. You can't use 4 people inside government. Do you know that some of the people calling today, they were defending it, even lawyers. Even some lawyers were coming. So that's why there are some lawyers, when they come to your studio to speak. Well, let me not say what I want to say. But honestly, I have my reservation. Believe me, they were defending something that was so clear. And then 3 people, 4 people, they say, okay, lawyers telling you that. You begin to. But today now, the assembly is doing it, and they are saying, no, do this, do that. Well, I don't think the sole administrator has anything to take from Rivers State. Don't forget, that man is a real admiral. He worked and retired successfully. Went back home, he was called to come and do a job. So that is what he has come to do. And the National Assembly has never shied away from publicizing budget or doing whatever and make it open. He has to be open.
Okay.
So if they want to do that, I don't think anybody will have problem with that. There was a time in Rivers State, we don't even see the budget. We don't even know how they debate and all that. But everybody was accepting it. So, but for me, what I want to appeal, my appeal here is, please, all these statements are not helping. Allow the sole administrator to do his job instead of so many accusations here and there. These are things they didn't do earlier when someone was making this same mistake. Oh, well, I don't know. We talk too much. I feel sometimes we are over talking. And for me, somebody like me, I don't like it. Allow the person to work. Let us see. And at the end of the day, we can now see whether the person actually did well or didn't do well.
All right, Lawson. Thank you very much. Collins Agumagu on Facebook says, good afternoon. Please ask your guest, how many times has budget demanded budget accountability from other states in Nigeria? Collins, I would ask that you educate yourself. Please look up what the Budget Foundation does. Everything does not have to be political, right? You can't expect that once a person takes a stand, they must be on the other side. If that's how you approach everything, it's going to cause problems. So I'll answer that question by asking you to just go and look up what Budget Foundation does. Go on their website and hopefully you'll get enlightened. All right, Sam, the president presents the national budget to the National Assembly, but the president, ministers, and heads of parastatals who implement the budget are called to defend the budget as it concerns their respective ministries and departments. So the sole administrator, the president's appointee, who will implement the budget, is the fit person to defend the budget to the National Assembly by the president. Okay. Oh, well, we are basically out of time. We have a program that should come up now. So we wait. That's the next thing to do. We're not quite sure when, but the defense of the budget is supposed to happen. Hopefully, it is a public engagement and Rivers people can ask better questions owing to what they have seen. Thank you for listening.